I never let my son know I made $40,000 a month, even as he watched me live a humble life. Then one evening, he asked me to dine with his wife's parents, who were in from out of town. I made a choice to play the part of a broke, simple mother to test how they would treat someone with nothing. But the second I walked into that restaurant, everything shifted. What unfolded that evening shattered my daughter-in-law and her family in ways they never saw coming. And believe me, they had it coming. Let me walk you through how it all went down. Let me show you who I truly am. Because my son Marcus, now 35, never learned the real story about his mom. To him, I was just the mother who left for work early, came home tired, cooked what we had, a regular employee, perhaps an assistant, someone average, nothing extraordinary. And I never set the record straight. I never mentioned my $40,000 monthly income, that I'd been a top-level executive at a global firm for nearly 2 decades, authorizing million-dollar deals and steering choices that shaped thousands of lives. Why would I tell him? Wealth was never a trophy I needed to display. I was raised in a time when dignity was carried inside, when quiet strength outweighed loud boasts. So I kept my truth close. I stayed in the same unassuming apartment for years. I carried the same leather purse until it frayed. I shopped at discount stores, prepared meals at home, saved every dollar, invested it all, and grew rich in silence, because genuine power doesn't need to yell. Genuine power watches, and I was watching very carefully when Marcus called that Tuesday. His voice was off, uneasy, like when he was young and had messed up. "Mom, I need a favor. Simone's parents are here from abroad. It's their first visit. They want to meet you. We're having dinner on Saturday at a restaurant. Please come." Something in his tone didn't sit right. It wasn't a son inviting his mother. It was someone pleading not to be shamed, to blend in, to look good. "What do they know about me?" I asked, calm. A pause. Then Marcus stumbled. "I said you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're modest, that you don't have much." There it was, modest, as if my whole life could be summed up by that pitiful word, as if I were an issue he had to explain away. I took a long, deep breath. "All right, Marcus, I'll be there." I hung up and scanned my living room. Aged but cozy furniture, walls bare of costly art, a small television, nothing to wow a guest. And in that moment, I decided if my son saw me as a poor woman, if his in-laws were coming prepared to size me up, then I would give them the exact show they anticipated. I would act broke, simple, and pitiful. A mother just scraping by. I needed to experience firsthand how they handled someone with nothing. I needed to see their real selves, because I had a suspicion. I suspected Simone and her family were the sort who judge a person by their balance. And my gut is never wrong. Saturday came. I wore the saddest clothes I owned, a faded, shapeless, creased gray dress, the kind from a second-hand shop, worn-out shoes, no accessories, not even a timepiece. I grabbed a battered canvas bag, tied my hair in a messy bun, and checked the mirror. I looked like a woman life had defeated. Invisible. Perfect. I caught a cab and gave the address. A fine dining spot in the city's most upscale district, the type where the menu has no prices, where a single place setting costs more than most people earn in a month. As we drove, I felt something odd, a blend of expectation and sorrow. Expectation because I knew a storm was brewing, sorrow because a piece of me still wished I was mistaken. I hoped they would be decent, that they would be kind, that they would see past the old attire. But the other part, the one that had worked 40 years among corporate predators, knew precisely what awaited me. The cab halted in front of the restaurant. Soft lighting, a doorman in white gloves, polished people entering. I paid, got out, took a breath, crossed the entrance, and there they were. Marcus stood by a long table near the window. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, polished shoes. He looked nervous. Next to him was Simone, my daughter-in-law. She had on a fitted cream dress with gold details, high heels, her pin-straight hair over her shoulders. She looked flawless as ever, but she wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the door with a strained, almost ashamed look. And then I saw them. Simone's parents, already at the table, waiting like king and queen on their thrones. The mother, Veronica, wore a tight emerald dress covered in sequins, gems on her neck, wrists, and fingers. Her dark hair was in a sleek bun. She had that icy, precise beauty that unnerves. Beside her was Franklin, her husband, in a perfect gray suit, a huge watch on his wrist, a stern face. Both looked like they'd stepped from a high-end catalog. I walked toward them with small, hesitant steps, as if scared. Marcus spotted me first, and his face shifted. His eyes went wide. He looked me over. I saw him swallow. "Mom, you said you were coming." His voice was strained. "Of course, son. I'm here." I gave a shy smile, the smile of a woman out of her depth. Simone greeted me with a fast cheek kiss. Cold, robotic. "Mother-in-law, good to see you." Her eyes said the opposite. She introduced me to her parents in a strange, almost sorry tone. "Dad, Mom, this is Marcus's mother." Veronica glanced up, assessed me, and in that instant, I saw it all. The verdict, the scorn, the letdown. Her eyes swept over my wrinkled dress, my old shoes, my canvas bag. She didn't speak at first, just offered a hand. Cold, quick, and limp. A pleasure. Franklin did the same. A weak handshake, a fake smile. Rehearsed. I sat in the chair at the table's end, the one farthest from them, like a secondary guest. No one pulled my chair out. No one asked if I was comfortable. The server came with the elegant, weighty menus in French. I opened mine and pretended confusion. Veronica watched me. "Do you need help with the menu?" she asked with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Yes, please. I don't understand these words." My voice was small, timid. She sighed and ordered for me. "Something basic," she said. "Something that isn't too pricey. We don't want to go overboard." The phrase hung in the air. Franklin nodded. Marcus looked away. Simone fiddled with her napkin. No one spoke, and I just observed. Veronica began with small talk, the trip from overseas, how draining the flight was, how different things were here. Then she smoothly moved to money. She named their hotel, $1,000 a night. She mentioned the luxury car they'd rented, of course. She mentioned the shops they'd visited. We bought a few items. Nothing major, just a few thousand. She spoke, looking at me, waiting for a reaction, for me to be awed. I just nodded. "How nice," I said. "That's lovely." She went on. "You know, Alara, we've always been very smart with money. We worked hard. We invested wisely. Now we own real estate in 3 countries. Franklin runs significant businesses and I manage our investments." She smiled a superior smile. "And you, what is it you do?" Her tone was sweet but poisonous. "I work in an office," I replied, looking down. "I handle a bit of everything. Paperwork, filing, easy tasks." Veronica exchanged a glance with Franklin. "Ah, I see. Administrative work. That's fine. It's honest. All work has dignity, right?" "Of course," I replied. The food arrived. Large plates with tiny servings, all arranged like art. Veronica cut her steak with care. "This is $80, she said. "But it's worth it. You get what you pay for. One can't just eat anything, right?" I nodded. "Of course, you're right." Marcus tried to steer the talk to his work, some projects. Veronica cut him off. "Son, does your mother live alone?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, she has a small apartment." Veronica looked at me with fake sympathy. "It must be tough, isn't it, living alone at your age without much support? And does your salary cover everything?" I felt the snare tightening. "I get by," I murmured. "I cut corners where I can. I don't need much." Veronica sighed dramatically. "Oh, Alara, you are so courageous. Truly, I respect women who fight alone. Although, of course, one always hopes to give our children more, a better life. But, well, everyone gives what they can." There it was, the subtle but fatal strike. She was telling me I hadn't been enough for my son, that I hadn't provided what he deserved, that I was a poor, lacking mother. Simone stared at her plate. Marcus clenched his fists under the table, and I just smiled. Yes, you're right. Everyone gives what they can. Veronica continued. We always ensured Simone had the best. She attended the finest schools, traveled the world, learned 4 languages. Now she has a great career, earns very well, and when she married Marcus, well, we helped them quite a bit. We gave them the down payment for the house. We paid for their honeymoon because that's just how we are. We believe in supporting our children. She looked right at me. And you? Were you able to help Marcus with anything when they married? The question hung like a sharp blade. Not much, I replied. I gave them what I could. A small present. Veronica smiled. How sweet. Every little bit helps, right? The number isn't what matters. The thought is what counts. And right then, I felt the anger start to simmer inside. The anger wasn't hot. It was cold, contained, like a river under frost. I breathed slowly, kept the timid smile, and let Veronica keep talking, because that's what her kind does. They talk, they inflate, they boast, and the more they talk, the more they reveal, the more they show the hollowness within. Veronica sipped her expensive red wine, swirling it like an expert. This wine is from an exclusive region in France. It's $200 a bottle, but when you know quality, you don't cut corners. Do you drink wine, Elora? Only on holidays, I replied, and usually the cheapest. I don't know much about it. Veronica smiled condescendingly. Oh, don't worry. Not everyone has a trained palate. That comes with exposure, with travel, with education. Franklin and I have toured vineyards in Europe, South America, California. We are quite knowledgeable. Franklin nodded. It's a hobby, something we enjoy. Simone is learning, too. She has good taste. She got it from us. He looked at Simone with pride. Simone offered a weak smile. Thanks, Dad. Veronica turned to me. And you, Alara, do you have any hobbies? Anything you like to do in your spare time? I shrugged. I watch TV, cook, walk in the park. Simple things. Veronica and Franklin shared another look. A look full of meaning, of silent judgment. How nice, Veronica said. Simple things have their appeal, too. Although, of course, one always strives for more, right? To see the world, to try new things, to grow culturally. But, well, I understand not everyone gets those chances. I nodded. You're right. Not everyone gets those chances. The server came with dessert, tiny portions of something that looked like edible art. Veronica ordered the priciest one, $30 for a sliver of cake. This is divine, she said after a bite. It has edible gold on top. See those tiny gold flakes? It's a detail only the best places offer. I ate my simpler, cheaper dessert in silence. Veronica went on. You know, Alara, I think it's important we discuss something as a family now that we're all together. She looked up. Her expression shifted, becoming serious, falsely motherly. Marcus is our son-in-law, and we love him dearly. Simone loves him, and we respect that choice, but as parents, we always want what's best for our daughter. Marcus tensed. Mom, I don't think now is the time. Veronica raised a hand. Let me finish, son. This is important. She looked at me. Alara, I understand you did your best with Marcus. I know raising him alone wasn't easy, and I truly respect you for that. But now Marcus is in a new chapter. He's married. He has responsibilities and, well, Simone and he deserve to have stability. Stability? I asked softly. Yes, Veronica replied. Financial and emotional stability. We have helped a lot, and we will keep helping. But we also believe it's vital that Marcus doesn't carry unnecessary loads. Her tone was clear. She was calling me a load. Me, his mother, a burden. Simone stared at her plate as if she wanted to vanish. Marcus had his jaw locked. Loads, I repeated. Veronica sighed. I don't want to sound harsh, Alara, but at your age, living alone on a limited income, it's natural for Marcus to fret over you, to feel he must look after you, and that's fine. He's a good son. But we don't want that concern to harm his marriage. Do you understand me? Perfectly, I replied. Veronica smiled. I'm glad you see that. That's why we wanted to speak with you. Franklin and I have thought of something. She paused for effect. We could assist you financially, provide a small monthly stipend, something that lets you live more comfortably without Marcus worrying so much. Obviously, it would be modest. We can't perform miracles, but it would be a support. I stayed quiet, watching her, waiting. She continued, and in return, we would only ask you to respect Marcus and Simone's space, not to reach out so often, not to pressure them, to give them the freedom to build their life together without meddling. How does that sound? There it was. The offer. The bribe dressed as kindness. They wanted to pay me off. They wanted to pay me to vanish from my son's life, so I wouldn't be a bother, so I wouldn't embarrass their precious daughter with my poverty. Marcus burst out, Mom, that's enough. You don't have to. Veronica interrupted him. Marcus, calm down. We're speaking as adults. Your mother understands, right, Alara? I picked up my napkin, calmly wiped my mouth, took a sip of water, and let the silence build. Everyone was looking at me. Veronica with expectation, Franklin with arrogance, Simone with shame, Marcus with desperation. And then I spoke. My voice came out different. It was no longer timid. It was no longer small. It was solid, clear, and icy. That's a fascinating proposal, Veronica. Truly very generous of you. Veronica smiled victoriously. I'm glad you see it that way. I nodded. But I have a few questions, just to be perfectly clear. Veronica blinked. Of course, ask anything. I leaned forward slightly. How much exactly would you consider a modest monthly stipend? Veronica hesitated. Well, we were thinking 500, maybe 700, depending. I nodded. I see. 700 a month for me to disappear from my son's life. Veronica frowned. I wouldn't phrase it like that, but I responded. That is precisely how you phrased it. She adjusted in her seat. Elara, I don't want you to misinterpret. We only want to help. Of course, I said. Help. How did you help with the house down payment? How much was that? Veronica nodded proudly. 40,000. Actually, 40,000 exactly. 40,000. How generous. And the honeymoon? 15,000, Veronica said. It was a 3-week tour of Europe. Incredible, I replied. Unbelievable. So, you've invested about 55,000 in Marcus and Simone. Veronica smiled. Well, when you love your children, you don't hold back. I nodded slowly. You're right. When you love your children, you don't hold back. But tell me something, Veronica. All that investment, all that cash, did it purchase you anything? Veronica blinked, confused. Like what? I continued. Did it purchase you respect? Did it purchase you genuine love? Or did it just purchase compliance? The mood shifted. Veronica stopped smiling. Excuse me? My tone grew sharper. You've spent the whole evening discussing money. How much things cost, how much you spent, how much you have, but you haven't asked once how I am. If I'm happy, if something aches, if I need company. You have only calculated my worth, and apparently I'm worth 700 a month. Veronica paled. I didn't. Yes, I cut her off. Yes, you did. From the moment I arrived, you've been measuring my value with your checkbook. And do you know what I realized, Veronica? I realized that the people who only talk about money are the ones who least understand their true worth. Franklin stepped in. I think you are misreading my wife's intentions. I looked straight at him. And what are her intentions? To treat me with pity? To humiliate me all through dinner? To offer me charity so I'll disappear? Franklin opened his mouth but said nothing. Marcus was white. Mom, please. I looked at him. No, Marcus, please don't. I'm done being silent. I placed the napkin on the table. I leaned back in my chair. There was no more timidity in my posture, no more shrinking. I looked Veronica directly in the eyes. She held my gaze for a second, then quickly glanced away, uneasy. Something had changed, and she felt it. Everyone felt it. Veronica, you said something very interesting earlier. You said you admire women who fight alone, who are brave. Veronica nodded slowly. Yes, I did. Then let me ask you something. Have you ever fought alone? Have you ever worked without your husband's backing? Have you ever built something with your own two hands, without your family's wealth? Veronica stammered. I have my own accomplishments. Like what? I asked with genuine curiosity. Tell me. Veronica touched her hair. I manage our investments. I oversee properties. I make key decisions in our businesses. I nodded. Businesses your husband built, properties you bought together, investments made with the money he earned. Or am I wrong? Franklin cut in, annoyed. That's not fair. My wife works just as hard as I do. Of course, I replied calmly. I don't doubt she works. But there's a difference between managing existing money and creating it from nothing, between overseeing an empire you inherited and building it piece by piece, don't you think? Veronica pressed her lips. I don't know what you're getting at, Alara. Let me clarify, I replied. 40 years ago, I was 23. I was a secretary in a small company. I earned minimum wage. I lived in a rented room. I ate the cheapest food I could find. And I was alone, completely alone. Marcus stared at me. I had never shared this with him in such detail. I continued. One day I got pregnant. The father vanished. My family disowned me. I had to choose whether to keep going or quit. I chose to keep going. I worked until the day I gave birth. I returned to work 2 weeks after Marcus was born. A neighbor watched him during the day. I worked 12-hour days. I paused and drank water. No one spoke. I didn't remain a secretary. I studied at night. I took courses. I learned English at the public library. I learned accounting, finance, administration. I became an expert in things no one taught me, all on my own, all while raising a child alone, all while covering rent, food, medicine, clothes. Veronica was staring at her plate. Her arrogance was starting to crack. And you know what happened, Veronica? I climbed step by step, from secretary to assistant, from assistant to coordinator, from coordinator to manager, from manager to director. It took me 20 years. 20 years of nonstop work, of sacrifices you can't even picture. But I did it. And do you know what I earn now? I asked. Veronica shook her head. $40,000 a month. The silence was absolute, as if someone had paused the universe. Marcus dropped his fork. Simone's eyes went huge. Franklin scowled in disbelief. And Veronica froze, her mouth slightly open. 40,000, I repeated. Every month for almost 20 years. That's nearly $10 million in gross income over my career. Not counting investments, not counting bonuses, not counting company stock. Veronica blinked several times. No, I don't understand. You earn 40,000 a month? That's right, I replied calmly. I am the regional director of operations for a multinational corporation. I oversee 5 countries. I manage budgets of hundreds of millions. I make choices that impact over 10,000 employees. I sign contracts you'd need lawyers to decipher. And I do it every day. Marcus was pale. Mom, why did you never tell me? I looked at him tenderly. Because you didn't need to know, son. Because I wanted you to grow up valuing hard work, not cash. Because I wanted you to become a person, not an heir. Because money corrupts, and I wasn't going to let it corrupt you. But then, Simone whispered, why do you live in that small apartment? Why do you wear plain clothes? Why don't you drive a luxury car? I smiled. Because I don't need to impress anyone. Because true wealth isn't for showing off. Because I learned that the more you have, the less you need to prove it. I looked at Veronica. That's why I came dressed like this tonight. That's why I pretended to be poor. That's why I acted like a broken, simple woman. I wanted to see how you would treat me if you thought I had nothing. I wanted to see your true colors. And boy, did I see them, Veronica. I saw them perfectly. Veronica was red with shame, rage, and humiliation. This is absurd. If you earned that much, we would know. Marcus would know. Why would he believe you are poor? Because I let him, I replied. Because I never discussed my job. because I live modestly, because the money I earn, I invest, I save, I grow it. I don't spend it on flashy jewels or showing off in pricey restaurants. Franklin cleared his throat. Even so, this doesn't change that you were rude, that you misread our intentions. Really? I stared at him. I misread when you said I was a load on Marcus. I misread when you offered to pay me $700 to vanish from his life. I misread every condescending remark about my clothes, my job, my life. Franklin didn't answer. Neither did Veronica. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. Let me tell you something that clearly no one has ever told you. Money does not buy class. It does not buy real education. It does not buy empathy. You have money, perhaps a lot, but you don't have an ounce of what truly counts. Veronica stood up, furious. And you do? You who lied, who tricked us, who made us look like idiots. I didn't make you look like idiots, I replied coldly. You took care of that all by yourselves. I just gave you the chance to show who you are, and you did it brilliantly. Simone had tears in her eyes. Mother-in-law? I didn't know. I know, I interrupted her. You didn't know, but your parents knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they were belittling me, and they enjoyed it until they found out the poor woman they look down on has more money than they do, and now they don't know what to do with that information. Veronica trembled. You have no right. I have every right, I replied, because I am your son-in-law's mother, because I deserve respect, not because of my money, not because of my job, but because I am a human being, something you forgot this entire dinner. Marcus stood up. Mom, please, let's go. I looked at him. Not yet, son. I'm not quite finished. I looked at Veronica one last time. You offered to help me with $700 a month. Let me make you a counteroffer. I will give you $1 million right now if you can prove to me that you ever treated someone with kindness who didn't have money. Veronica opened her mouth, closed it, said nothing. Exactly, I replied. You can't because to you, people are only worth what's in their bank. And that is the difference between you and me. I built wealth, you just spend it. I earned respect, you purchase it. I have dignity, you have bank accounts. I picked up my old canvas bag. I pulled out a black platinum credit card. I dropped it on the table in front of Veronica. This is my corporate card. No limit. Cover the whole dinner with a generous tip. Consider it a gift from a broke and simple mother. Veronica looked at the card as if it were a venomous snake. Black, glossy, with my name engraved in silver letters. Elara Sterling, Regional Director. Her hand shook slightly as she picked it up. She turned it over, examined it, then looked at me. Her eyes no longer held that superior glint. Now there was something else, something I never expected to see in her. Fear. I don't need your money, she said, her voice broke in. I know, I replied, but I didn't need your pity either, and yet you offered it to me all night. So take it as a gesture of politeness or good manners, something you clearly didn't learn despite all your trips through Europe. Franklin tapped the table. Enough. This is out of hand. You are disrespecting us. Respect? I repeated. How interesting you use that word now. Where was your respect when your wife asked if my salary covered my expenses? Where was it when she hinted I was a burden to my son? Where was it when she offered to buy me off so I'd disappear? Franklin clenched his jaw. Veronica only wanted to help. I corrected him. Veronica wanted to control. She wanted to ensure the poor mother wouldn't ruin her daughter's perfect image. She wanted to remove the weak link. The problem is she picked the wrong link. I looked at Simone. Her head was down, her hands in her lap, shaking. Simone, I said softly. She looked up. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my parents. She didn't finish. I interrupted her. Because you did know. Maybe you didn't know about my money, but you knew how your parents are. You know how they treat people they see as beneath them, and you did nothing to stop them. Simone sobbed. I wanted to say something, but they are my parents. I know, I replied, and Marcus is my son. And yet I let him make his own choices. I let him pick his life, his wife, his path, because that is how you love, with freedom, not with control, not with money, not with manipulation. Marcus came closer. Mom, forgive me. Please forgive me for never asking, for assuming, for thinking you were. His voice broke. I hugged him. You don't need to apologize, son. I did what I did for a reason. I wanted you to be self-reliant, to value the right things, not to lean on me, financially, to build your own life, but you made me feel I had to shield you. Marcus said, I had to worry about you, that you were fragile. I know, I replied, and it wasn't wrong that you thought that, because that's how you learn to care, to worry for others, to be empathetic. Those are lessons money can't buy. Marcus hugged me tight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Veronica was still standing, stiff, watching the scene with a mix of confusion and contained fury. This changes nothing, she finally said. You lied. You deceived us. You came here with hidden motives. You acted in bad faith. That's true, I nodded. I acted. I pretended to be something I'm not. Exactly what you do every day. What does that mean? Franklin asked. It means you hide behind your money, behind your jewels, behind your travels, behind everything you can purchase. But inside you are hollow. You don't have deep talks. You don't have real passions. You have nothing to offer beyond a bank statement. Veronica let out a dry, bitter laugh. Coming from someone who lied all evening, that's hypocrisy. Perhaps, I replied, but my lie revealed the truth, your truth. And now you can't hide. Now you know that I saw you, that I felt every remark, that I stored every insult disguised as counsel, and that I will never forget it. The server timidly approached. Excuse me, would you like anything else? Franklin shook his head abruptly. Just the check. The server nodded and left. Veronica sat back down, defeated. Her posture was no longer elegant. It was the posture of someone who had just lost something important. And it wasn't money. It was power. Alara, she said in a softer, less aggressive voice, I don't want this to damage the bond between our families. Marcus and Simone love each other. They have a life together. We can't let this, I interrupted her. Let this what? Let this ruin your plans. Let this expose what you truly think. It's too late for that, Veronica. The harm is done. But we can fix it, she insisted. We can start over. No, I cut her off firmly. We can't because now I know who you are and you know who I am. And that truth can't be erased with hollow apologies or fake smiles. You treated me like garbage, and you did it with pleasure because you thought you could. Franklin cleared his throat. You were the one who came here lying. You provoked this situation. You're right, I nodded. I provoked this because I needed to know. I needed to confirm what I already suspected, that you are not good people, that your money doesn't make you better, that you are exactly the kind of people who scorn others for not having the same things. Veronica wiped a tear. We are not bad people. Maybe not, I replied, but you are definitely not good, and there is a vast difference between those two things. The server returned with the check and left it on the table. No one touched it. Veronica looked at my black card still in her hands, then at me. I'm not using your card, she said. We will pay our own bill as we always do. Perfect, I replied. Then keep that card as a memento, as a reminder that not everything is as it seems, that the woman you scorned all night has more than you will ever have. And I'm not just talking about money. Veronica put the card down. I don't want it. I don't want your moral lecture, either. I pushed it back toward her. Keep it anyway, because something tells me you'll need it. Someday, you'll meet someone like me, someone who acts less than they are, and you'll make the same error, because people like you never learn. Franklin took out his wallet, pulled out several credit cards, all gold, all shiny. He chose one and put it on the check. The server took it and left. No one spoke during those waiting minutes. The silence was thick, uncomfortable, heavy. Simone cried quietly. Marcus held my hand. Veronica stared at the wall. Franklin checked his phone to avoid eye contact. The server returned. "Sir, your card was declined." Franklin looked up sharply. "How was it declined?" The server repeated. "Declined? Do you have another form of payment?" Franklin turned red. "That's impossible. That card has a very high limit. It must be a system error." The server shrugged. "I can try again if you like." Franklin handed him another card. The server left. Veronica looked nervously at her husband. "What's going on?" "I don't know," Franklin replied, irritated. "It must be a bank glitch. Maybe they froze the account for security. It happens sometimes when you travel." I nodded with feigned understanding. "Of course, those things happen. How inconvenient." The server returned again. "I'm sorry, sir. This one was also declined." Franklin stood up. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling the bank right now." He stormed out. Veronica remained seated, ashamed, humiliated. "This has never happened to us," she murmured. "Never." "What terrible timing," I commented without emotion. Marcus looked at the check. "Mom, I can—" "No," I interrupted him. "You are not paying for anything." I took out my wallet, a simple old leather wallet. I pulled out another card. This one wasn't black. It was transparent, made of heavy metal. A card that less than 1% of people worldwide possess. I put it on the table in front of Veronica. She looked at it. Her eyes widened. She recognized it. "That's a Centurion card." "That's right," I replied. "American Express. Invitation only. Minimum annual spending of $250,000, $5,000 annual fee just to have it, and benefits you can't imagine." Veronica said nothing. The server took the card carefully, as if it were sacred. He returned in less than 2 minutes. "Thank you, Miss Sterling. Everything is settled. Would you like the receipt?" "It's not necessary," I replied. The server nodded and left. Veronica kept looking at the space where the card had been. I stood, took my old wallet, my canvas bag, and looked at Veronica one last time. "The dinner was delightful. Thank you for the venue recommendation, and thank you for showing me exactly who you are. You saved me a lot of time, a lot of energy, and many future letdowns." Veronica finally looked up. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from contained rage. "This isn't over," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't just humiliate us and walk out as if nothing happened. Simone is our daughter. Marcus is our son-in-law. We will still be family. You will have to see us." "You're right," I smiled. "I will have to see you at birthdays, Christmases, family events. But now I will see you differently. I will no longer wonder what you think of me. I already know. And you will know that I know. And you will live with that. Every time you see me, every time you pretend to be kind, you will remember this night." Franklin returned to the table. His phone was in his hand. His face was pale. "There's an issue with the accounts," he said. "A temporary security block. It will be fixed tomorrow." He looked at the table. "Did they pay already?" "Yes," Veronica replied without looking at him. "She paid?" Franklin looked at me. His pride was shattered. "Thank you," he murmured. It was barely audible. "You're welcome," I replied. "That's what family is for, isn't it? To help each other, especially when someone needs a small allowance, say 700, or in this case, 800, which is what this dinner cost." Franklin closed his eyes. Veronica clenched her fists in her lap. Marcus approached. "Mom, let's go, please. It's enough." I looked at him. "You're right. It is enough." I turned to Simone. She was still crying quietly. "Simone," I said softly. She lifted her head. "You're not to blame for how your parents are. No one picks their family, but you do pick how you act, how you treat others, how you will raise your own children someday." Simone nodded through her tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. "Don't apologize again," I told her. "Just learn. Learn that money does not define people, that humility is not weakness, that respecting others costs nothing, and that if you ever have children, teach them to see people's hearts, not their bank accounts." Simone sobbed harder. Marcus hugged her. Veronica looked away. Franklin checked his phone again, avoiding all eye contact. I headed for the exit. I took a few steps, then stopped and turned back one last time. Veronica, one more thing. She looked at me. Do you recall when you said you speak 4 languages? Veronica frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Just curious, I replied. In which of those 4 languages did you learn to be kind? Because clearly it wasn't in any of them. Veronica opened her mouth, but no words came out. Exactly, I said. You can speak 100 different languages and still not say anything worth hearing. I walked out of the restaurant. Marcus walked beside me. The cool night air hit my face. I breathed deeply. I felt as if a huge weight had been lifted. Not a physical weight, but an emotional one. The weight of acting, of tolerating, of staying silent. Marcus took my arm. Mom, are you okay? Perfectly okay, I replied. Better than ever. And you, Marcus? Marcus sighed. I don't know. I'm processing everything. I can't believe you never told me about your job, about your money, about all you achieved. I stopped and looked him in the eyes. Does it upset you? He quickly shook his head. No, of course not. I'm proud. Incredibly proud. But I also feel foolish. Blind. You are not foolish, I told him. You simply saw what I wanted you to see. And I did it on purpose because I needed you to grow up without leaning on me, without feeling you had a financial safety net waiting. I needed you to struggle, to work, to value everything you achieved on your own. Marcus nodded. I understand. But now I also understand why you never complained, why you never asked for help, why you always seemed so calm. Because you needed nothing. I smiled. I needed many things, son. Only none of them could be bought with money. I needed to see you grow, see you become a good man, see you make the right choices. And I achieved that. Even marrying Simone? He asked in a weak voice. Even marrying Simone, I replied. She is not her parents. She can learn. She can change, but that depends on her and on you, on how you build your relationship, on what values you choose to follow. Marcus was silent, processing, thinking. A taxi pulled up. I'd called a ride as we left. I opened the door. Marcus stopped me. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you do it? Why did you come pretending to be poor? Why didn't you just tell them the truth from the start? I closed the taxi door. I turned to him. Because I needed to know, son. I needed to confirm if my suspicions were correct, if Simone's family was really as I imagined, and unfortunately, I was right. Marcus lowered his gaze. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize for them, I told him, but you do have to decide what kind of husband you want to be, what kind of father you want to be someday. What do you mean? He asked. I mean, you have just seen 2 very different ways of handling money and power. Your in-laws' way and mine. They use it to control, to humiliate, to feel superior. I use it to have freedom, to help without showing off, to live peacefully. You choose which path to follow. Marcus slowly nodded. I understand. I opened the taxi door again and got in. I rolled down the window. Marcus came closer. Mom, one last question. Tell me, are you ever going to forgive Veronica and Franklin? I thought for a moment. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, I replied, nor does it mean allowing it to happen again. I might forgive them someday when I see a genuine change, when they start seeing people as people, not as numbers. But until then, I will simply be polite, distant, and very cautious. And me? Marcus asked. Do you forgive me for not asking, for assuming, for allowing this dinner to happen? I looked at him tenderly. Son, there is nothing to forgive. You did what you thought was right. You wanted your family to meet. That is beautiful. What happened after was not your fault. It was theirs, and a little bit mine too, because I chose to play their game. Marcus smiled weakly. You won. I won, I nodded, but I don't feel victorious. I feel tired and sad because I confirmed something I didn't want to confirm, that some people will never change, that some families are broken even with money, that there are voids no bank account can fill. The taxi driver cleared his throat. Ma'am, should we go? Yes, I replied. Give me 1 second. I looked at Marcus one last time. Go to Simone. Talk to her. Listen to her. Support her. But also be honest. Tell her how you felt tonight. Tell her what you expect from her family and from her. Because if you don't set boundaries now, this will happen again and again. I will, Marcus promised. I love you, Mom. And I mean it more now than ever because now I know who you really are. And you are incredible. I smiled. I love you too, son. I always have. I always will. No matter how much money I have or don't have. Because love has no price. And that is a lesson Veronica and Franklin will never learn. Marcus stepped back from the taxi. I signaled the driver. Can we go? The taxi started. I looked out the window. I saw Marcus walking back toward the restaurant, his shoulders slumped, thoughtful. He was likely going back to find Simone, to face his in-laws, to have hard conversations. And I felt proud because that meant he was maturing. He was learning. He was choosing to be better than the example he had just witnessed. If you enjoyed this story, which city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you'd like to support my work, you can send a super thanks to help me bring more stories like this. Thank you for your kind support. I look forward to your thoughts on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.